One second. Recording this too, for those who are missing it. Um, so I'm just really excited to, right now, I'm really excited to be continuing to build off of our base building, incredible base building from over the summertime, and to be launching people into more actions with us to be advancing our legislative priorities. So I'm going to invite, and I'm sorry, oh my gosh, Brittany, you're not up on the slide here. I want to
No
invite
problem.
Zippy and Brittany to just introduce themselves and maybe to say something about something they're looking forward to with the climate work in Maryland.
Zippy, you can go first.
Hi, I'm Zippy Horowitz. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the Maryland campaigns coordinator. I am Baltimore based. And one of the things I am very, very excited about for this fall is our electrification campaign here in Baltimore, because we've got a pretty good chance of the bill coming up in January, first thing out of the gate. And a lot of it is thanks to the incredible work of our volunteers. And I'm just feeling really hopeful about the prospect that, new home buyers are not going to have to deal with something that's going to harm them and their families that is being sold to them by people who don't care about them. Brittany, go for it.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brittany Baker. Some of you I met on the last call, but some of you are new faces. I'm the Maryland director, the new Maryland director, and I'm really excited about the Renew Act. Actually, I get more excited every day because it's really a shift that we need, which is making sure that polluters are paying for the climate damages we're seeing, especially as the climate crisis intensifies. So I'm excited to be on the call with you all. We need every one of you to really be fully bought in and ready to work.
Awesome. Thanks, Zippy and Brittany. So we're gonna, in a second, our new invasive vines manager, Meredith, will introduce herself. And then we're also going to talk about our legislative priorities, what we need to do to win. We're going to talk about our the importance of lobbying and just generally what we're going to be doing. It's really, really exciting to build towards a more holistic and sustained volunteer lobbying program. And then we'll take some questions. We'll have a great update from our Baltimore team. I'm sure Zippy will say more about electrification, and our volunteer leadership will as well. And then we're going to break up into groups, and we're just going to talk to each other about recruitment for our lobby captain training, and just talking about just assessing the interest and capacity to recruit folks to be joining our lobbying program. And then we'll do a little report out at the end. And if you stay on afterwards, you might hear from our sister organization that's doing some incredible work in states outside of Maryland in particular. Okay, great. So I am going to pass it off to you, Meredith, to introduce yourself. Take it away.
Awesome, thanks. Hey everyone, great to see you all virtually. My name's Meredith. I use she, her pronouns, and as Mustafa mentioned, I'm the new Invasive Vines Program Manager with CCAN. I come here from similar environmental nonprofit spaces in DC, working mostly in conservation, but also a lot of my background is in environmental education, working with young people. And most recently, I was with the Student Conservation Association, SCA, which is a national nonprofit. I spent about 3 years with them working with young people in parks and green spaces in DC. So, teaching skills and inspiring student volunteers to take hands-on action in their local parks. And that picture of me on the left is me hugging a giant sequoia out in California at an SCA training I was at earlier this year. So a really awesome experience that allowed me to travel a lot and see how people are doing conservation work in different parts of the country. So I have a lot of experience working with volunteers, also quite a bit of experience with invasives. So all of this led me here to this role with CCAN to continue on this great program that you might know started in 2021 in Tacoma Park. And we have have now been tasked with expanding this program quite a bit. So I'm going to talk a little bit in a minute about sort of what that is going to look like. But just wanted to give a little bit more background about me. So that picture on the right is actually my parents' backyard in central Maine, where I grew up. We call it down East Maine, actually, if you're like familiar with Maine jargon. So, you know, if you've been to Maine, you know, it is, you know, a very outdoorsy state. I feel like it was kind of impossible not to love and have a relationship with nature from a young age. I actually walked through a trail in my backyard to my high school every day. So kind of just spent my childhood, you know, with a real deep appreciation for the environment and kind of our place in it. And so, you know, I was surprised when I moved to DC and started working with young people and just realized that, you know, not everyone is fortunate to have the same connection and to, you know, have those same values instilled from a young age. So I think something that's really exciting for me about this work is to see people, whether that's young people or older people or whoever, come into this work, you know, for one reason or another, maybe just trying to meet some new people or get outside or, you know, fulfill a volunteer requirement. And then, you know, learning so much about invasive vines and why they're important and just emerging with, you know, a passion and knowledge that they didn't even know that they had within them. So, you know, if you've done work with invasives before, you know, it's kind of one of those things that once you start doing it, you can't unsee it. Like you see them everywhere. And so I'm excited to, you know, really dive in and meet some people who are also passionate about invasives. And I just think it's the type of work that really goes far beyond just the event that you might attend or the vine that you might be pulling. So, you know, I'm really excited about invasive work. I think it's one of those things that it's a really easy mission for people to get behind, but it's a huge problem to tackle. And there's just a lot of, you know, money and resources that needs to be put into dealing with this problem. Obviously, they're, you know, a threat to our ecosystems and a big contributor to biodiversity loss. But also, I think there's a lot of human impacts to the invasive problem as well. You know, both with economic impacts and then also just, you know, impacting our ability to enjoy and recreate in nature. And, you know, when your favorite trail is overcome by invasive vines or, you know, you can't enjoy a space that used to have tree canopy and then all the trees have been taken over by vines, I think, you know, we're really starting to see that impact more and more, especially in this area. And so if you could go to the next slide, I just want to talk a little bit about the project itself. So the biggest question people keep asking me about, you know, the invasive vines program is, where is this work going to happen? Where are these events going to be? And my answer has been, that's a great question. I don't really know yet. So we are still in the very early stages of planning this work. Right now, that's our biggest focus is identifying those geographic targets for the work. But I put this map up here so you can kind of see, you know, the realm of possibility for where we'll be having these invasive vine events. So this is a map that was created by Casey Trees. We are working in partnership with them under the funding that they were given through the Inflation Reduction Act and the U.S. Forest Service to work in these purple shaded areas that are identified disadvantaged communities. So you can see a lot of it is PG County. There's a little bit in Montgomery County as well, but we're probably going to be primarily focusing on those spaces in PG County and DC. And as you can see, it's a lot of land to cover. So we're, you know, right now working on that targeting, working on building partnerships, surveying those potential areas, and then of course building a volunteer base who's willing to go and help us out with these projects, which could potentially be all of you. So when is this work going to start? We are hoping for, you know, some kind of kickoff event, hopefully in you know, late October or early November, and then we'll have events on Saturdays with some regularity going from there, whether that's like monthly or a little bit more frequently. So you know, I'm really looking to get some people involved. So if you have experience with invasive vine removal or other types of invasives, I would love to hear from you. We're really looking for some volunteer leadership for this project so that we can cover more ground and have people to help you know, train and educate other volunteers as well. So if you've done this work in the past, or if you know of groups that do, or individuals that do, I would love to hear from you. I'm just looking to take in all the information right now. But also if you don't have any experience and you want to get involved, I would love to hear from you as well. So I think Mustafa just dropped a link in the chat to schedule a meeting with me. I would love to do a one-on-one with you, or, you know, feel free to just reach out, send me an email. I can, you know, add you to a list so that I know once we start these events that you're interested in joining. So yeah, Thank you. I think that was under 5 minutes. I'm not sure, but I am looking forward to hopefully meeting some of you guys and seeing you out in the field.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Meredith. And yeah, we're really, really excited about your work. And if you are excited about protecting green spaces and you live, in Montgomery County, Prince George's County, please do connect with Meredith. But if you're a volunteer leader and you are doing invasive vine removal in your own community or want to get plugged into it and you want to just like talk to somebody on the CCAN staff that's really literally in the weeds on this, but maybe it's the vines, I should say. We should change that phrase. You can certainly reach out to Meredith. Thanks so much, Meredith. Brittany.
Can you advance the slide? Thank you. And actually, it's funny. I was introduced to CCAN through our previous Vine program in Tacoma Park because I am a Tacoma Park resident and I read in the newspaper about the program. So it is very important work. But I'm here to tell you all about the Renew Act. So the Renew Act is really continuing the game's theme as we move closer to legislative session. For those who might be new to the call, a quick overview of the Renew Act is it is our state bill modeled after federal polluters pay legislation. The bill calls for the largest, most polluting fossil fuel companies to pay into a fund called the Climate Change Mitigation and Adaptation Fund. And then those payments will be used as dedicated climate funding for some of our best mitigation and adaptation programs, such as public school decarbonization, addressing the health impacts of climate change, and of course, supporting local communities to adapt their infrastructure to extreme weather events and increased flooding and even saltwater intrusion. We have some programs to help communities on the Eastern Shore adapt and relocate their wastewater facilities. And so we've met with all the sponsors to confirm their interest in reintroducing the bill this year. Our confirmed sponsors are Delegate Fraser Hidalgo, which is District 15, Montgomery County, Delegate Boafo, District 23, Prince George's County, and also Senator Hester, District 9, Howard and Montgomery County. Those are our primary sponsors, but we will start shopping the bill around for other co-sponsors pretty soon. And another thing that we're going to do pretty soon, likely within this month, is make a few changes to the bill language to update it for this year. Primarily, these changes are prompted by conversations that we've had with stakeholders. I'm going to share these changes tonight, even though they're not necessarily finalized. So one, we're updating the qualified expenditures to reflect programs that the Department of Natural Resources is more interested in than the ones that we had last year. For example, even though their Living Shorelines program is really great, they said there are other programs that need more funding. So two, we're adding the more health programs as qualified expenditures. Likely that will be the health benefits exchange. And that's really exciting because one of the highlights of the Renew Act is it has helped bring the climate health nexus to the forefront of the climate conversation. And then last but not least, we're adding in the Justice 40 language to the bill to make sure that, our Justice 40 communities get a lot of these funds and to reflect the federal polluters pay legislation that was reintroduced on September 10th. And so just like I was just sharing, the federal polluters pay bill was reintroduced last week. And if you follow us on social media or emails, I'm sure you saw, because Quentin Scott, our federal director, is highly involved in that campaign. And as you see in the picture here, Mike came with us, Gabby came with us, and we all went out to the press conference to support the release of that legislation. Okay, so that's about it on the Renew Act. Now we can move forward to clean energy with Delegate Charkoudian. So our second biggest priority in the legislative session this year is going to be a clean energy legislation with Delegate Charkoudian. Now, you may have noticed that the title of that bill changed from the 100% clean because Maryland has codified some really ambitious climate goals. However, as we progress towards those goals, there have been some hints that some of our fundamentals in the status quo really need updating to make sure that we're accomplishing a clean energy transition that is equitable and affordable. I won't get deep into the PJM and the capacity market crisis today, but look forward to a deep dive on that before session starts, because I definitely will give some more background. But as as I was sharing, we're working on a bill to address some of the concerns that we're seeing from leadership, from situations like the capacity market crisis, from other members of Economic Matters Committee who are really concerned about the way we're subsidizing clean energy. And so the bill will work to solve some of these issues. So the goals of the bill are to address resource adequacy and make sure we're increasing in-state generation to meet increased load from the projected data centers and planned electrification. We also want to establish policies to add resources to the grid quickly, because right now there's a really, really long interconnection queue to get on the PJM grid. We want to deploy clean energy generation in the state to reduce the need to build more transmission lines. And we also want to significantly increase clean energy resources that will be serving Maryland by 2035 towards the goal of 100% clean energy. So I'll pretty much stop there in terms of the discussion on clean energy that we're working on with Delegate Charkoudian. But again, we will do a deep dive on that as we lead up to the legislative session. Back to you, Mustafa.
Great. Thanks so much. Thanks so much, Brittany. So there's about 16, my gosh, I'm going to date myself, 16 years ago, almost 16 years ago, that I was recruited to attend my first lobbying meeting. So I was living in North Carolina, and I was starting to get plugged into a faith-based organizing group. And there were, I had heard stories of members of our congregations that we organized with who had faced loans that they couldn't afford, and some of their loans had jumped up to 35%. And I remember that there was somebody who was a member of one of our congregations who stood up in a meeting with legislators and policymakers and said that if 10% is good enough for God, it should be good enough for humans. And so there was at that time, at that meeting, I attended it. I was asked to come and be a part of the organizing team to prepare for in-person, like small group meetings with legislators. And part of what I was asked to do was just to prepare so almost like a position paper with members of the Muslim community on what the Orthodox Islamic perspective on usury is. And after having put that paper together and after having presented it to a large group of people, I was then asked to then start attending a lobbying meeting to prepare to join a team and to work with a lobby captain. And I was trained and prepped, and I had a role going into the meeting. And I was meeting with my state senator from North Carolina. And I just remember at the end of the meeting, her saying, thank you to me for presenting the concerns and the perspective of some members of the Muslim community. And that really stuck with me. The initiative that we had working on had gained a lot of support. And even though there was a lot left on the table for the banks in terms of how they made out in the 2008 banking crisis, that was my first time actually doing a lobbying meeting. And I just remember feeling how impactful it felt to have this as an opportunity to build community with people who are impacted and feel passionately about an issue, and to start building a relationship with the legislator to break that ice so that I could feel like I could be talking to them more and more and more and more after that. So this is why we're talking about lobbying, because we know that there's a lot of you on this call that have probably participated in lobbying meetings with CCAN during our famous lobby night during session. But there's no better tactic than having better in-person conversations with legislators and to show up in person to demonstrate to them how important an issue is. We may not be able to convince them, but if we demonstrate that people are showing up, I will guarantee you that they will take notice. And so um, uh, we are preparing for in-district lobbying meetings both before session starts, and then we also are preparing to have a program where our members can be regularly going to Annapolis and meeting with their legislators and talking to their staff, making sure that they're keeping climate justice priorities a priority and to try to get our priorities done this year. So we have a lobby captain training that's coming up on the 25th. I know somebody will pop it into the chat. This is an opportunity for those of you who are interested in wanting to help recruit others in your community to join a lobbying team, to help train others in your community and other CCAN members on how to lobby effectively. This is your opportunity to really step up and do that. You might say, well, I've only lobbied once or I've only lobbied twice. You do not have to be an expert in lobbying to show up to this lobby captain training. All we ask of you is that you have a passion and drive to recruit others and to be able to help us train other people. And don't worry, we will provide you with the resources that you need to run really successful meetings when you have those. In addition to that, we'll actually be working with you and providing you the resources that you need to schedule the meetings yourself, because we're trying to equip more and more people within our climate movement to be able to directly access the legislators' staff and the legislators directly, and to feel comfortable reaching out to them personally to build that relationship. So in regards to the Renew Act, legislators just need to hear loud and clear from the constituents that we need to pass the Renew Act so that taxpayers don't have to pay for all the mitigation and adaptation measures needed for our communities to survive in the face of the escalating climate impacts. And so we need to make it clear that we want to be a part of a movement to hold these fossil fuel companies accountable to make polluters pay. So if you're still thinking about whether you want to be a lobby captain, this is your opportunity to be on the forefront and to demand that they hold polluters accountable. The clean energy legislation that Brittany talked about. So there are rumors that leaders in the General Assembly are considering encouraging a new fossil gas plant in Maryland, or potentially increasing energy towards small nuclear reactors. And we have to let our legislators know that we do not support building out any new fossil fuel plants, and desire to build our own clean energy resources before considering these small modular reactors. So if you believe in that, and if you believe that that needs to happen, we want to be working with you and invite you to come to this lobby captain training. You can learn more, get more in the details about the expectations and get trained on it. And at the end of that training, you can make a decision. Do I have the time to do this? Is this something that I really, really want to do? So even if you're just thinking about, like, do I want to be on the forefront of stopping the building of additional fossil fuel infrastructure in Maryland? This is your opportunity to show up on September 25th and to learn about what it will mean to be a lobby captain, to get trained on on lobbying, and to be set up for setting up these meetings with your legislators. And at the end, you can say whether you're going to commit to be able to do this or not. So showing up, RSVPing is not a full-on commitment. We would love to just have you there and show you what we are expecting folks to do. So I'm going to pass it to Zippy or actually, I think we're going into, I think we're going to go into the Baltimore update. Or Zippy, do we have a volunteer that anybody else that might want to speak on this? On lobbying? Or raise your hand also. Raise your hand if you have lobbied at all. Brittany gave herself away. Of course, the Maryland director knows how to lobby. John, I see that. Anybody else? So I see a few hands up. Anybody would like to say, take a moment just to say, words of encouragement of getting trained on being a lobby captain and having legislative meetings with your legislators or their staff?
I'll break the ice. So many of you know that I am the Maryland director, but before this, I was in Delegate Charkoudian's office. I was her legislative aide, and it was very important. She paid close attention to her constituents and their concerns. And like Mustafa was sharing, it's not so important that you're skilled in lobbying, but building that relationship, identifying shared values, and letting your legislators know that you're paying attention to their actions and the way they're voting on things is so important. Rob, you want to share as well?
Sure. I have lobbied with CCAN 3 times. The first time I did not want to be a lobby captain. I was too chicken. But then once I saw that lobbying really wasn't that difficult, the second time I volunteered to be a lobby captain, and it wasn't really that hard. It does take some organizational skills, but nothing, incredibly difficult to do. So I would encourage people, based on my own experience, to do it. And then last year I lobbied again, not as a lobby captain. And that was my first in-person lobbying because the previous two were during the pandemic. So those were just Zoom calls, and being in person was, I really enjoyed that. It was a lot better than just being on Zoom. And that's it.
I'm Robert Lipsky. I have experience lobbying once for CCAN, and that was with the Renew Act last year, and that was a very good experience for me. Obviously, we still have a lot of work to do to persuade legislators to really push this through, and there's a lot of work to be done, and I'm entertaining the idea of becoming a captain, so we'll see how that works out.
Entertain, Robert, and you can entertain by coming on the 25th and just hearing it out and
Absolutely.
making an informed decision. We would love
For
to have
sure.
you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thanks to the both of you for sharing. And I'm going to pass it on to one of our amazing volunteer leaders that works very closely with Zippy and our Baltimore volunteer team, John Eckenrode, to give an update on the amazing work on Baltimore electrification and grassroots outreach. So John, the floor is yours. And you are muted, John. I just asked you to unmute. There you go.
There we go. Okay, yeah. The main, as Zippy was saying, their main focal point is electrification, and recently what we've been doing is groups of people have been staffing tables at some of the farmers markets and festivals going on in Baltimore, and collecting signatures for electrification. So right now we've, like I say, the farmers markets, also Locust Point last week, and collected over 500 signatures so far in of people supporting electrification. We're looking for people for going out to Poolsville to staff a table there as well. Also, we're doing lobbying, reaching out to city council members. I think this looks, we have looking at having a electrification bill in Baltimore that would be putting a deadline on further expansion of gas expansion in the Baltimore area, in Baltimore City, and drawing up a draft of a bill now that we would be presenting. It's gotten a lot of support so far from city councilmen, and the best way to sign up other people again is to encourage people to attend the September 25th lobby captain training and help us to take this to the next level. So that's pretty much it in Baltimore right now.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much, John. We're going to pause for a few minutes and see if there are any questions in regards to our legislative priorities, or in regards to our invasive vines work, or our lobbying program, or Baltimore teamwork. So do folks have any questions?
Robert, I've got a question. What are planning insofar as trying to overcome the stiff resistance to the Renew Act?
That's a great question, Robert.
I
would
mean,
say
that's
that
something that like I said, just an N of one, that we are facing a lot of headwind from some particular groups. What is our plan to really try to have an impact on that?
So because you lobbied last year on the Renew Act, if you left the conversation then, you will feel, oh, there's so much resistance, but actually there's a lot less resistance now. Last year was the year to lay the groundwork and begin those conversations, get the word out about the Renew Act. And now people have recognized it as something that is possible. And in particular, Maryland is facing a very, very difficult budget situation. But at the same time, even when you look at any climate document, such as the Climate Pollution Reduction Plan, you see there's this great need for funding for our climate programs. MDE said we need $1 billion a year. And so when you take those situations juxtaposed, everybody is now saying, well, the Renew Act is our best option to get those funds because it's the only revenue raiser with no fiscal note. And so now the political situation that we're facing is a lot different than last year.
That's
But
really good to know.
either way, in terms of a plan, our plan is you guys. I mean, we really do need we need to maintain the pressure of we must pass a revenue raiser this year. And once people are bought into that, they always go with Renew because it's the easiest and really most logical thing to do as far as an immediate revenue raiser. Our other options are like the fossil fuel transport fee, but that only brings in like 100 million a year when the Renew Act brings in 900 million a year at the minimum. And also cap and invest is a revenue raiser that a lot of people are discussing, but MDE only has authorization to develop regulations related to cap and invest. It will still take a separate bill to implement it. So we're really facing a different conversation this year when it comes to the Renew Act.
I'm really glad to hear that. I'm on board.
Any other questions? We could take maybe two more questions.
I do have the question with the PJM putting that 500,000 volt line across the northern border of the state. I look at these data centers, and we should basically delegate the fact that they need to produce their own power as much as feasible, whether it be solar, wind, on property, putting canopies on their parking lots with solar power, doing everything they can. And then they need to be co-located next to a power plant. And whether or not one's going to be proposed a nuclear plant or whatever, they need to be right there near it. So we're not running, 500,000 volt cables across the state. I feel sorry for those landowners that own that farmland. And, that's just a scar upon the land as far as I'm concerned. And, they need to produce, if they need that much power, they need to figure out how they're going to get it. They need to produce it where they are, buy more land, put up windmills, put up there on their own land.
Thank you, Michael. Yeah, we do agree that you have to be thoughtful when you think about this idea that Maryland might adopt data centers. And we also agree that we can't allow leadership's data center ambitions to interfere with our climate goals. So
yeah,
that's definitely something to share with legislators when we do our lobby meetings.
I don't want to get too far in the weeds on this. Is there a backgrounder on the data center? Like, why is it attractive and why is it it's not like it's a huge job creator after the initial construction. I'm a little behind the curve.
We haven't produced any documents related to data centers because that's not something we're taking a strong stance on this year or tackling this year. But I'm sure they probably have some good data center one-on-one information in Maryland Matters. But if you want to reach out to me via email, I would be glad to find like an introductory article on that for you.
Great. Cool. Well, thanks so much to everybody. I'm going to pass it to, I'm going to, I should put that up there, but I'm going to pass it to Zippy to provide more of an update on the Baltimore teamwork, and then we will probably break into our breakout groups for around 12 minutes or so, 10 or 12 minutes together.
So first of all, I wanted to take a moment to thank John and congratulate John, as well as all of our other volunteer team leaders and all of the volunteers who have been going out and meeting our grassroots goals. And I am so thrilled that we have over 500 signatures for electrification. But there is so much more to do, which is why we have all of these events centralized in one link for you. So if you can join this link on Mobilize, ccan.link/join Greater Baltimore Grassroots if you're in the Baltimore area, you'll see when our team meetings are. You'll see all of the volunteer opportunities we have for you to go canvassing coming soon, door knocking, canvassing with clipboards, high traffic, tabling. There are all sorts of opportunities and ways to get involved. And of course, we have our team meeting that is coming up right after the lobby captain training on September 25th. So our team meetings are the last Wednesday of every month. They are at St. Mark's Lutheran Church and also on Zoom. So that is exactly where our lobby captain training is going to be happening. So if you're showing up for lobby captain training in person and you're in Baltimore, there's no reason not to stay. And it's a great time. We've been shifting to spending more time with each other, getting to know each other as a team, because ultimately we're the community that we have for each other to be able to help us through this work. Because as you try and take on big challenges and fight big groups like the fossil fuel industry, ultimately, like, they have money power, but we have people power, and people power doesn't exist without the bonds we build with each other. And so ultimately, I think these team meetings are a really important way for us to connect with one another. If you're interested in starting a team meeting in your local area, we have a mobilized setup for you too, and we can connect you to the resources that you need to get your local team off the ground, particularly if you're in Montgomery County or Prince George's County. Those are a couple of places that we're looking to kick things off. And last but not least, I just wanted to also let you know that with the September team meeting and the idea of relational building, that we have this lobby captain training coming up. We have these team meetings that are larger than they used to be, and we really need more of a community to join us and get involved. And to help us do that, I am setting a goal that between now and the end of September, I would like to have 25 one-on-ones with people who are either interested in becoming a lobby captain or are interested in joining the Baltimore team. So if you're interested in grabbing coffee and talking about what skills you can build, what connections you can make, what policies you can influence, please, please, please reach out via my link, schedule a meeting. Like I said, we'll grab coffee. We can even grab lunch. It's really about figuring out what we can do together. So that's the Baltimore update, and we'll see you next time.
Great. Thanks so much, Sippy. We are going to break out into breakout groups. I'm actually going to go ahead and open up the rooms here. But before you go into them, we're going to be focused on really spending time both just meeting each other, but also just talking to you all about your interest, whether it's in invasive vines work or whether you're interested in getting plugged into the lobbying work, and how you can help recruit people within your communities to join in on the work that we're already doing. So Zippy is going to be spearheading the Baltimore, Howard, Frederick County group. So if you want to talk to Zippy, go there. And then Brittany will be doing Montgomery County, Southern Maryland, and everywhere else it's already covered. And then myself and Meredith will be doing Prince George's County, and anybody who just wants to be joining a community of invasive vine volunteers. So please join the appropriate group. And we'll come back like 7:58.